Well, hello, boys and girls, and here's your favourite grumpy granny from Groggy's Patch back again. Well, 2024 is turning out to be not a bad year, I'm going to say. I'm having some good sales at the moment, and so I hope you are all too. Now, today's little golden nugget, we're going to talk about how or why more time won't make you more productive. And why is that, you may ask? Well, you know, one of the things that I discovered when I first, well, probably not, when I was about probably 6 months in, I found that I was spending all day to list like 10 items. And it was because I was listing at the time, I was an everything seller, and I was listing one handbag, then one leather belt, then one pair of jeans, then one lady's top, and so on it goes. And you find that that's a long way of process of doing it because it's inconsistent. You're having to reset the photography station every time and all that sort of thing. And of course, books, of course. Now, one of the things I discovered then after talking to some of the more proficient sellers was I probably needed to look at the processes that I was using. Now, admittedly, I had far more mobility issues back then than I have now. And I'm probably at that point now where I'm about ready to redo my times and work out to see if where I can be more productive. So the first thing I did was I started by timing myself doing different things. So I would take photos and see how long that took me, and then how long it took to load the stuff onto the computer, how long it took me to actually do the actual listing on the computer, what sort of time it took me to process the clothing and get it ready for photography, and all those sorts of things. And every process. So one of the first things, I guess, that made me more productive was having a SKU system. And if you don't have a SKU system, get onto it now, especially if you're a new seller, get onto it right at the start because it saves you so much time. It took me a long time to get my SKU system into place because I had quite a lot of books and a lot of clothing and other bits and pieces that I had to SKU and know where they were. But the difference is that, and it made me think about it today, because one of the things I sold today was a listing that somehow didn't have a SKU number. And so I had 5 items that I had to pick, and I picked the first 4 within less than a minute. And then it took me probably half an hour to then go and find that other top that didn't have a SKU. And that is where the time saving comes in, because instead of spending all that time hunting around looking for stuff because you don't know where it is, having a SKU system, the time saving is just incredible. Then once I got that into place, I then looked at things like my packaging station, how I could organise that in a better way that would make it faster for me to pack. At that stage, I was using small, medium and large bubble mailers for my books. I had small and medium and large vinyl satchels for my clothing. And I had boxes for the hats. I was making special Frankensteining cardboard protectors for records and books, and doing all those different processes when you're doing your shipping, especially if you've got a lot of stuff, it can take a lot of time because, again, it's not flowing. It doesn't flow. You're wasting a lot of time fluffing around going from one process to another. And early on too, I was posting ceramic items, which a lot of them had to be double boxed. And yeah, they take a lot of time to do. And some people really enjoy doing those, and good on you if you do. I'm not one of them. I then worked out lots of things to do to change my shipping processes. And I can now go in there now, and once I've picked my items, which generally would take me, depending how many I've got, I'm going to say I can easily pick, even though things are in different spots. So I've got clothing behind me on my rack. I've got coats are in a different spot because they won't all fit on the rack because they're a lot thicker. My jeans are all in the other room. I've got all my books here. I've got my VHS over there. I've got book bundles in the other room, so I do have to go from room to room sometimes, depending what gets sold. But that being said, even with having to do that and go from room to room, I can generally pick my stuff, I'm going to say at least four. I can pick at least 4 to 5 things in under a minute. And that's say even if I had to go to a separate room for each one. Then I put that all in my little trolley that I take to the post office. I wheel that into my shipping station. Once I'm in there, again, if you're doing all different types of packaging and having to work out how you're going to do each one, then that all takes time too. But having things all ready and making sure that at the end of the day, after I've done my shipping, that I've got enough, say thank you cards for the next day, that I've got enough bubble mailers, and that sort of thing. And so I actually changed my shipping a lot by actually reducing the types of stuff the actual mailers. So I no longer use the vinyl satchels, and there are lots of my little nuggets, and I've mentioned it plenty of times before. So go back and watch some of my older videos if you're wanting to know why I changed that, or I may even go over that again at some point. So I only use bubble mailers, and my clothing and my books get sent in that, and it makes things a lot quicker. It's such a time saver. So I can, pick and pack and go in there and do it. And I need to probably time it all again because I'm going to say I do it really quickly now. I could probably say it takes me, maybe 15 minutes to do 20 items, but I don't really know whether that's fair dinkum because I haven't timed it. And it's probably time to go and do that again and see if there are any other spots where I can make some time savings, because at the end of, each day shipping, I make sure I've got enough stuff ready for the next day. And things like, for me, because I actually make my own cardboard protectors to put around books and to put around vinyl records and things like that. And I use that all from cardboard boxes that I cut down. And I used to just have the cardboard boxes in my shipping station, and I would have to cut each one to size as I was going. Now I actually pretty much break the boxes down to where they're pretty much a strip. So I have a lot of different strips that are different widths for the different width books, and then all I have to do is cut the length and fold them over and they're done. So it's all little things like that. And it's amazing how if you time yourself doing those things, that you actually see, and the way I'm going to suggest that you time yourself is to actually film yourself. Now, I have a GoPro, so I did it all on my GoPro. If you don't have a GoPro, you don't need to have one. Set your phone up somewhere to film yourself, or if you've got an iPad or something, set yourself up to film yourself, because when you actually watch it back, that's where you actually pick the things up, because you're actually watching yourself and you're thinking, oh, why are you doing that? Oh, you should do that this way, and changes things remarkably. So that's my little nugget for today. For anybody, and even if you're a seasoned seller, I reckon at the start of every year, or at least once a year at some point, you should actually go back and do those timings again, just to see where you're doing. Are there any more places that you can save time? So there you go, boys and girls. Okay, today I am going to give you a little sale. I thought you might like to see something that I sold. And so what I have sold is this book, which is quite a rare book. So I do have it here to show you, but I'll show you the photos of it first. And, I'm in the wrong page to show you there. Hang on, go through. You'll see that's the cover. It's actually in pretty good nick. There is just a little tear up here, but it is in pretty good condition. Other than that, the dust jacket there. Then we've got the actual cover of the book, cloth binding. There's the measurements of it there. And so these are how I do all my photos. So I've got lots of photos. And I do go out of my way, especially if I've got a book like that, which is worth quite a bit of money, as you can see. it is good to actually, I would make a bit more effort with the photos and make sure that I do include plenty of photos and that sort of thing when it's more expensive. And I will actually go in and share my other screen, which is the orders page. So you'll see here. So I originally had this listed when I first put it up for $99.88, I think, or $99.95, can't remember which. And then I reduced the price by that sort of 1% every time I do an end and sell similar, or if I'm editing it or something. And so it's just come down a little bit. So it's now come down to $96.34, which is what my buyer has paid. $42 postage, which is my rate. And I think it is going to, yes, it's going to the US. They paid their sales tax. So I find it quite annoying in some respects, but it is what it is. I find it quite annoying that the postage and the sales tax that an overseas person pays all gets added on to our totals before we actually have to pay our transaction costs and our ad fees on that. But hey, that's all part of selling on eBay, I guess, because after that, they then take the sales tax off. And transaction fees were $21.13. And I did have this one, it was a promoted listing. So the ad fee was $7.26, which means that my gross profit was $109.95. And then, bear with me. And then, so after that, I then had to, I don't know what I've done. I must have been pressing on the keyboard. I've got like the biggest string of threes, like you wouldn't believe. So I then had to pay, my postage was actually after the discount, was $21.80, and then allowing for the packaging that I used was $1.06. So that came with a revenue. So the total revenue for the book worked out at $138.34 for me. And so I don't count in their sales tax in that. And then the expenses were $52.25. This book cost me $1. And so I made $86.09 on this book, which is quite a nice little profit, I think. So I hope to see you all tonight in my Discord. And if you don't know about that, there is a link up the top of my channel page to my Discord. And there'll be a link in this, usually put a link in the video description as well. And you can come along tonight to my Gigi's Reseller Discord, where we have our book club tonight. And tonight we will be talking about the anatomy of a book and the terminology and things that people use for books and the collectors, because that's what a lot of books like this, we're aiming to try and sell this to a collector. So what's the best way to list it? What are some of the keywords that we can use? And which will inevitably lead into what's the best way to do a title. So there you go. We start at 8:30. So if you do want to pop into my Discord, please do. And I will see you then. Otherwise, I will see you tomorrow.